Hey, what's going on, everyone? Dan Wanis here with the Daily Fantasy Press. This is our second episode breaking down the U.S. Open. In our first episode, we looked at the course preview, DraftKings, FanDuel salaries, and some of the news that's been talked about leading up to Erin Hills. And now in this episode, we're gonna just take a updated look at weather now that we have a better idea of what we can expect Thursday and Friday. Also going to be looking at FantasyDraft salaries. They have now released that, and they have a great product over there. Brandon and I really like it. So we'll be taking an in-depth look at the FantasyDraft product. And then lastly, we came out last week with the DraftKings stats for the first two rounds of each tournament. So this weekend, I'm currently recording this on Saturday during the St. Jude Classic. And I'm going to be using that as an example to show you guys how we use the first two rounds of stats and use that to build our DraftKings weekend lineups. So first, let's get into it. We have the updated forecast here. Like I said, this is on Saturday, so it still could change. As of right now, it looks like there's going to be rain earlier in the week to soften up the course. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the chance of rain. And then it's looking good for Thursday, Friday. Has a slight chance of a thunderstorm possible. And same with Saturday, and then a chance on Sunday as well. So in the Midwest, these storms can pop up out of nowhere if there's a little bit of heat, humidity. It looks like Sunday it's going to cool down just a bit, but winds right now on Thursday look like the afternoon wave is going to be much windier than the morning. So this is something we really will keep an eye on. I don't know yet if this is how the forecast looks Wednesday night. Absolutely, I would take a tee time favoring the morning guys on Thursday, especially since Friday doesn't look like it's too impactful at the moment. But like I said, we will update our Twitter account with any changes to the wind forecast, even if there's a chance of rain. We will reflect that as well. So stay tuned with our article, with our Twitter account, and you can follow along on there for any other weather updates. Next, I just added some of the social media stuff guys have been mentioning about Erin Hills. I think it was like 2 weeks ago almost now. Wesley Bryan, he posted a video on Snapchat showing how long the rough in Fescue is. Shout out to the Twitter account, Erin Hills Fescue. It's pretty funny. It's just a Twitter account that kind of emphasizes how dangerous that rough can get. And give it a follow. It'll be fun to follow it for the week leading up to it, and I'm sure they'll be taking some jabs at players that get in some trouble leading up to the weekend. So that was Wesley Bryan. You can see the photo there. That fescue goes almost up to his knees. On the right, Justin Rose, he posted a picture this week at the 18th at Erin Hills. You can see the number of sand traps off to the right. Guys are going to want to stay clear of that. You can catch everything I said in the first episode about the traps and the trouble some of these guys are going to be having with these. And then Dustin Johnson, he's been tweeting quite a bit lately, and especially about the U.S. Open. He said he's had a good couple of practice rounds at Erin Hills, and he really likes the course. Russell Henley, a guy that did not play well for the St. Jude. I think his final score was 7 over last I saw. He missed the cut. I think he's going to be a guy with low ownership. I haven't decided what I want to do with him. I'm going to go back, evaluate the stats. Look for our article to see if we come up with anything. But he said he's had a fun few days practicing at Erin Hills. Awesome course and great staff. And then Jason Day. He spent the day at Erin Hills Golf, says, what a place, can't wait for the U.S. Open. So I will say with Jason Day and the big GPP tournaments, I think I'm taking a hard stance on him. He just is not good around the greens, and I think that's going to be something very important this week, that you have to be good around the greens. And if you get in any trouble, it could ruin your weekend. So there's a few guys that have spoken publicly on social media about the course. Going on here, now let's get into fantasy draft. For those of you who have not played on fantasy draft, it's much different than DraftKings and FanDuel by way of pricing. Their pricing, it's really based more on Vegas odds. You don't have these outliers like you have on DraftKings, especially for these huge golf tournaments, the majors. They always have so many mispricings, and you feel like you have to take these guys just because they seem like such great value, and it often leads into a trap, huge chalk that busts. And I mean, we've seen it here with, Kyle Stanley. That happened to him, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, that it's pricing that you can't pass up and feel like you have to take. The general public's going to be on them. And I don't like that scenario where I'm putting that and I see a misprice, feel like it's just too hard to fade. And yes, game theory says you should do it, but at the same time, they're a much better golfer than anyone around them, so it's tough to pivot off of them. But you can see the layout here on Fantasy Draft. It's very clean, user-friendly. You will notice here you have $100,000 in salary cap. That equates to just over $14,000 per player. Dustin Johnson for the U.S. Open, he is priced at $19,000. And Rory McIlroy, he's priced at $18,200. And it's and the salaries go all the way down into the $11,000, $12,000 price range. So the weekly strategy Brandon and I have been taking and been successful with is you don't go to the top because you don't want to go all the way to the bottom feeders, guys that just are not as likely to make the cut. And with Fantasy Draft, you get to pick 7 golfers, and your top 6 at the end of the week count towards your final score. So you get to throw 1 golfer out. And I really like to leverage. I want all 7 of my guys to make the cut and give myself my 6 best golfers all throughout the weekend. And I think this 6 of 7, a lot of people do kind of go up near the top thinking they can kind of get a free square on a guy in the 11,000 price range. But if you have a guy additionally that misses a cut that you were really banking on in, say, the 15K price range, most likely you're going to have your 11K guy miss the cut also. So I really like to take a balanced approach here. And since you put in all this effort to research weekly, Fantasy Draft really makes you look down to a couple $100 and compare guys and really take the 7 best golfers rather than just plugging in these guys are mispriced to begin with and not having to think about it as much. So I really like the contest sizes on Fantasy Draft. Also, they have all levels of GPPs. They have beginners, intermediates. Their head-to-heads are rake-free, something that you do not see on the other sites. So that is a huge bonus when you're starting out trying to build your bankroll. And if any of you guys are interested in signing up, there's a link in the description on the YouTube video here. Otherwise, feel free to shoot us a message and we will give you the referral code. It is DFP. But if you want us to send the link, we can do that as well. So check out FantasyDraft. We're going to be taking a look at the salaries here more in depth. So I mentioned I like to go a balanced approach. Now, this week, just because you have 150 golfers in the field, only 60 make the cut. So this week, I think I am going to take guys just above the 16K price range. Typically, I like to stay in the 16,000 and under, but I think the value in the 16K is really good this week. So first you have Jon Rahm. He's priced at 16,600. He's coming off a miscut at Memorial, but I'm not too worried about it. There were some good golfers that missed the cut at that event, and it was a tough course. So I'm not going to look into it too much. Rahm ranks 17th in greens and regulation on tour this year, 2nd in strokes gained tee to green, and 3rd in strokes gained off the tee. His game really fits at just about every course he's played at. I'm sure you'll hear it again this week. People will probably say, I'm worried about him playing in the U.S. Open for the first time here at Erin Hills. Well, guess what? Every single event he's played at this year has pretty much been the first time he has seen the course, and his strategy really seems to work. He relies on his caddy, and he's not stubborn, and I think he matches up really well with Erin Hills and the stack categories that I'm looking at. Next, Justin Rose, priced at the same amount as Jon Rahm, 16.6. He ranks 18th in greens and regulation this year, 13th strokes gained tee to green, 8th strokes gained off the tee. And he is just a world-class golfer, and he's had some time off to gear up for Erin Hills. As I showed you guys in the social media post, he was at Erin Hills this last week, getting a feel for the course, and I really like his price here. So I would say I'd choose between Rahm or Rose to start with my lineups, especially in cash, and go from there, and then dip down into the 15K and below and try to stick in that range of guys. So next we have Mark Leishman. He's priced at 13,400. He ranks 51st in greens and regulation, 22nd strokes gained tee to green, and 25th in strokes gained off the tee. Now, Leishman's coming off a T15 finish at Memorial, T34 at Dean and DeLuca, and T12 at Byron. And he's rounding into form just in time for the U.S. Open. He typically plays these U.S. Open events well, and if there is wind, like the forecast is showing, Leishman plays well in the wind. So I am going to want to take some of these guys that are really solid ball strikers, and at 13,400, he's a great value on FantasyDraft, and I'd even use him in cash as well. Now next, I'm going to be looking at some of the Euro golfers that I think set up well for Erin Hills. First, Bernd Wiesberger. He's priced at 12,800, and I think this is just such a misprice. He ranks, let me explain this first. So a lot of these guys have not played enough PGA Tour events to register their stats on PGATour.com. So I'm going to let you know in their rounds this year where they are at. So Wiesberger, he has hit 68% of his greens in regulation. And if you rank that on tour, that would be ranked 33rd on the year. So he's a solid ball striker. Strokes gained off the tee, 1.48 strokes, which is incredible. That would rank 9th on tour, and 0.265 strokes gained off the tee, which ranks 65th. Wiesberger has finished T12 at the Players, T43 at the Masters, T23 at Shell Houston, and T45 at WGC Mexico. I think he's got a lot of talent. a lot of people are not going to be on some of these Euro guys because they're not as familiar with them. But at 12-8 on Fantasy Draft, I think even in cash games, once again, he's a solid cash game and GPP option. Next, Alexander Noren. He's priced at $14,800. He is actually ranked 8th in the official golf world ranking. He finished 10th at the Players, 33rd at Wells, and he is hitting 67% of greens in regulation, gaining .483 strokes tee to green and .511 strokes gained on his approaches. So I think Noren, his stats really line up well with the course. And I didn't mention his .511 strokes on approach is ranked 7th on the PGA Tour. So he's been a solid golfer, played here in the States, also on Euro quite a bit. So, and like I said, he's ranked 8th in the official world golf ranking. So I think Alexander Noren is going to be another guy that kind of flies under the radar this week and is a great value on Fantasy Draft. And lastly, we have Peter Uihlein. He's hitting 70.31% of greens in regulation, which puts him at 12th on tour, gaining almost 1 stroke tee to green, which puts him at 28th, and .927 strokes off the tee, which ranks 4th on tour. He has finished T5 at Puerto Rico and made top 25 finishes at Shell Houston and Memorial here. So Uihlein, another guy I'm on, watching him here at St. Jude. He made the cut, so I think Uihlein's a great value at $12,100 to give yourself some salary relief. Now moving on to our DraftKings weekend golf stats model. Here's a picture of it. This is taken from the St. Jude. And we just came out with this. We're going to be offering it weekly, and what we do is collect the first 2 rounds of stats after the second round is finished on Friday, and we make it available to our members for $2.99 a week. These stats, you can see it in the columns going across the top. They include strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained approach, around the green, strokes gained putting, tee to green, driving accuracy, and greens in regulation. Like I mentioned, this sheet, it's taken from St. Jude, and you can see a number of guys at the top of the leaderboard that were leading in strokes gained putting. Now, those are not the guys I want to target for weekend golf, especially since putting is so much variance. I want to target guys that are striking the ball well, gaining strokes, tee to green. And in that far right column, you can see in the strokes gained variance who is struggling putting but striking the ball really well. So guys like Adam Scott, Luke List, Joel Dahman, all guys that check the box. Now, in GPPs, guys like List and Dahman are going to go so under-owned. And you can see just by looking at this sheet, they pop off the page. And List came in at 8% ownership, and Dahman came in at 2% ownership. And the only other way people can see these stats is if they go on the PGA Tour app and manually click on each player. And unless you have an incredible memory, you have to jot this stuff down, do the manual work, whereas we just produce this at a price that's less than a cup of coffee. And it just gives an advantage to identifying these guys that are not going to be chalk, were not talked up to begin the week, and have found a good form in their swing and hitting the ball well. So that is our DraftKings weekend stats model. You guys can reach out to us with any questions you may have, especially for starting out with the U.S. Open. I know a lot of new DFS players are going to be joining that weekend golf on DraftKings, And these big major events, you have a lot more novices and new players that hop into golf because they want to follow along on the U.S. Open for the weekend and put a team together. So if you guys have any additional questions about it, don't hesitate to shoot us a message on Twitter. And I think it's a really valuable tool that, I mean, we're just we want to put a price on it just so not everyone has access to it, and we have an edge over the field at looking at these stats and identifying quickly which guys we want to target and identify those GPP plays over the weekend. And lastly, if you guys are not following us on Twitter at Daily Fantasy Press, give us a thumbs up on our YouTube channel if you enjoy the video. I know this video is not anything along the lines we typically do on a weekly basis, but I just wanted to put this out here since FantasyDraft had just released their salaries, give an update to weather, and show our weekend DraftKings stat models. So be sure to check out the previous U.S. Open video I did, and that really gives an in-depth course breakdown and which stats I'm keying in on and players I like on DraftKings and FanDuel. And we will also be releasing our article giving an in-depth course write-up and player breakdown as well, and identify some players we didn't touch on in either of these videos. So once again, if you guys have any questions, message us prior to the U.S. Open, and I wish you guys the best of luck for the tournament.